Well, welcome to a special Ncuti Gatwa ranking episode of the Matt the Critic Show. You may recognise today's two guests because they somehow managed to give me my longest podcast yet. If you want to go back and listen to the David Tennant special, I truly recommend it. Adam and Zach, welcome back to the show.
Woo, thank you for having us again. Woo.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's so we're here today to celebrate the work of Ncuti Gatwa's run as the Doctor. I thought it'd be no better to get you two back on because we did 2 hours 16 minutes on David Tennant.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully there are far fewer episodes that Ncuti Gatwa has done as the 15th Doctor, so hopefully we won't be here that long.
Yeah, should be able to cover all 7 in less than 3 hours.
Oh, 7?
Hmm?
9?
9, sorry. 9.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh yeah, to be fair, we it was 10 last time. We've all got 9, so well, it should be maybe an hour shorter, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Zach. You've got a Davis on Davis podcast. You're now competing.
Oh, I'm a competitor. Yes, because since the last time we recorded, I got the podcast bug. No, I didn't actually. I was asked by someone I went to university with to start a podcast examining the non-Doctor Who works of Russell T Davies because I'm a Russell T Davies obsessive. So far we started. We didn't do it chronologically right from the beginning. We started with his 1999 hit Queer as Folk. We then moved on to the 2001 series Bob and Rose, which might I say is my favourite television show I've ever seen. It's about a gay man in Manchester who falls in love with a straight woman, and they both fall in love with each other. What a great story about learning to love yourself and not letting anyone tell you who you are. And then we are partway through The Second Coming, starring Christopher Eccleston as a man who wakes up one day and realises, oh my God, I'm the second coming of Christ. And then we'll be working our way through Mine All Mine, making our way up to the present day. And then once we've done that, then maybe we'll go back and do some of his really, really old stuff. But yeah, I'm a competitor.
Yeah, he's a competitor. We'll have to see what the listener rates like in direct competition. But yeah, it's been a pretty mental time since we last recorded the David Tennant podcast. I think we've certainly had a lot go on in our lives.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I think between being busy with uni, but I think this has been a really interesting series of Doctor Who for me, to someone who was out of the loop for so long and sort of was reinvigorated by the 60-year specials. I think we should touch upon the giggle first, which was kind of Ncuti's introduction before we start actually ranking. So, because we did review the Star Beast last time, I thought the giggle was the best of the 3 episodes personally. Like, I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I'll let you speak, Adam.
Okay. No, I think The Great Blue Yonder.
Wild Blue Yonder.
Wild Blue Yonder.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, Wild Blue Yonder, I think, was my favourite looking back on them. I wasn't sure the first time when I first watched the Wild Blue Yonder. I was a bit like, "Oh, that was interesting," but I wasn't sure. When I watched them back just before this series started, I much preferred it. So yeah, that was my favourite. I just feel like it was more interesting psychologically. We got the Dr. Donna, which was the point of them coming back. To me, like, that was the point of Tennant coming back to see that relationship again. I think we got the best of Tennant in that one. Well, the giggle's great though. It was really enjoyable. Neil Patrick Harris killed it. Yeah. And yeah, so I really enjoyed all 3 of them in their own way. They all felt different, which was good. You know, they all felt like their own different kind of adventure. And yeah, and it was a really good introduction to the new Doctor as well.
Yeah, I pretty much echo the same sentiment in that I find them very difficult to rank because they're all doing very different things. I love the first one for all its flaws because it feels like a warm blanket from 2008. The second one feels experimental, and then the third one feels like absolute fan nonsense where Russell T Davies is just throwing things at a wall and seeing if they stick. And most of them do stick. I mean, my mum, who has been watching the series with me, having not watched Doctor Who for a very long time, so a bit like you, Matt, she started pressing me, being like, but like, and spoilers, if people haven't seen the giggle, don't listen to this, how does it work if, like, the Doctor split? Does that mean, like, that the 15th Doctor isn't the 14th Doctor? Like, does he have the same, like, is his children? And I'm just like, don't think about it. Just go with the flow. David Tennant is doing the crossword in the armchair now as the 14th Doctor. He's retired. Just accept it. Don't think too much about the logical consequences of that, and just think about the vibes and the emotional payoff of putting the Doctor in therapy. So no, I really enjoyed the giggle, but I couldn't say which of my favourites of the specials there was, because I enjoyed them all for that.
They all kind of serve as sole purpose, I think, ultimately, as we've discussed. I just think the giggle, like, Patrick Harris was incredible. One of the best, he was only in one episode, which is mad that he was able to do that really good arc. And Spice Up Your Life is just...
that was a really fun moment,
But it was really good. So we'll get on to the Ncuti Gatwa ranking, which is going to work very much similar to other rankings I've done in the past, where if we all have this, well, we're all going to have the same episodes, obviously, but we'll save the discussion for when someone has the episode the highest. So if I have episode at number 9, Adam has at 8, Zach has at 6, we'll save it for the number 6. So without further ado, would anyone like to kick us off with number 9? Or should...
I think, knowing what we discussed before, I think Zach should go first.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
'Cause I am interested in what his number 9 is going to be.
So, after really enjoying the 60th anniversary specials, there I was sat on Christmas Day. What year was it? 2023. And I was slightly disappointed because The Church on Ruby Road is the lowest on my list. And I apologise to my good friend Russell T Davis, for whom it was his favourite script to write, apparently, according to the video commentary, but I think it was the weakest script he wrote this series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's higher on my list.
It's higher on mine too.
Which I'm not surprised by. I have some things I can go into about it, but no, that's the weakest on my list.
We will save that for a bit later. I'll go with my number 9, which I think is going to be the same as Adam's.
We're snapping on this one.
Space Baby.
Yeah, it's Space Babies for both of us.
So,
well, obviously, I have it higher.
Yes. Yeah,
how high is going to be the question?
I was going to say, if you ask me what my number 8 is,
Yeah.
my number 8 is Space Babies.
Oh, should we do...
we can talk about Space Babies now.
So let's just go for it.
Yeah.
So, Matt, do you want to give your criticism for Space Babies first?
I think it's too childish. I think I think the one reason why I'd say this is probably the worst, I think if you take this episode out of his run entirely, it feels very incidental in the grand scheme of things in terms of like the overall bigger picture. I mean, I just thought the boogeyman villain was very poorly written. I mean, the revelation that he's made up of bogies. I liked the young child Eric, and there was a scene, I believe, where he sort of stood up to the boogeyman, and I thought that was a really good message about facing your fears as a young person. But other than that, it didn't do anything. I thought it felt like it was rushed.
Yeah, it was such an odd thing to start a series with. In my opinion, I thought it was really odd. Like the choice to just... Because I'm imagining... So the whole point of this is that it's season 1.
Yeah.
So imagine if you've never seen an episode of Doctor Who, they'd be like, oh, so it's a show for kids. Like proper kids.
I should just say, it's been marketed as The Church on Ruby Road. The Church on Ruby Road is the first episode of the series. So people in America watching on Disney Plus and around the world will watch The Church on Ruby Road first.
Okay, yeah. That's fair then.
It's actually marketed as episode 2 outside the UK. It's only in the UK where it's marketed as episode 1.
Okay. Yeah.
But still, it's their first adventure in the TARDIS.
Yeah, fair enough. It was that, and there was parts where the characters were the only bit what I liked in it, because you kind of started to see them form as characters, like Ruby and Doctor's relationship. I did feel like they were already the best of friends, like straight away.
Yeah.
And like in other series, it feels like it's more earned.
Yeah, it
like,
takes a while. Yeah.
It takes a while. Well, in this one, it's like they're best friends. They hug every 5 seconds.
You believe it.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah. You don't get that time to watch them grow. And I feel like that's probably a problem with the whole series. You never really got, like, when did they become such best friends that they care of each other? But I think the also idea is that the Doctor's been through, as Zach said, therapy. So now he's just so much more open as a person. So he's ready to just be, like, love everything. And he's happy. And that was the point of, like, I think that was the point of having an episode about babies, to show how he's now, like, this happy, like, almost like a children's entertainer. That's how he felt, rather than the Lord of Time that he was in earlier seasons. Like you compare that to a Capaldi, where Capaldi's just so stern and face. And I get it, every Doctor's a different personality, and the Doctor itself, as we go on, will explore and become better. But yeah, and then there was just really low moments, like the whole nappy joke. I was like, really, really, okay, right, yeah. I guess some people will find that fun, but no.
Well,
Go on.
I'm here to defend, and I'm not going to defend the nappy jokes. I don't think they're inherently bad, but again, I think they're for people's taste. But I would like to say, having not enjoyed, having not thought The Church on Ruby Road was the best script in the world, and I'll get on to why in a bit. I thought this was a better script, a far tighter script that knew what it wanted to do, and what it wants to do is explore the common things that link the Doctor and Ruby. This is a series opener / first trip in the TARDIS, depending on where you are in the world, that is actually about the Doctor and Ruby, and it follows episodes like New Earth, which was the Series 2 opener, Partners in Crime, the Series 4 opener, that is not actually about the adventure, and it's about the two characters going either meeting or going on that first adventure. And really, I liked how this episode, and you guys think it was very childish. On my third viewing, because I'm a loser at watching it, I could not stop crying because I think there's so much heartfelt emotion in this episode, because it is about what happens when your family abandons you and who are your family. Because the Doctor, we're now following through this thread from the previous era that Russell T Davies is clinging onto, that the Doctor was adopted by the Time Lords and has now lost the Time Lords. Ruby was left at the church. She was adopted. She doesn't know who her family are. And these babies, and there's a slight sort of abortion metaphor in there, where a government said, you can't abort these babies from the baby machine. You're going to have to let them grow, and that's why there's this thing where they're babies, but they also are simultaneously kind of adults, but they've been abandoned by the society that created them. They don't have a family. You've also got Jocelyn on board, who's sort of familyless as well, but wants to look after the baby. So you've got all these sort of abandoned children in the babies and the Doctor and Ruby, and they're sort of coming together and they're exploring this. And there's some really heartfelt scenes between Captain Poppy and the Doctor, which I think was really heartwarming. And I didn't think Ruby was given enough to do in The Church on Ruby Road, and I thought this was the script where I was entirely sold on Millie Gibson being able to keep up with the Doctor. I know a lot of people dislike the fact that the episode opened with sort of a monologue from the Doctor saying, "I'm the Doctor. I'm from Gallifrey. I am a Time Lord, but I was adopted by the Time Lords. This is a time machine. It's bigger on the inside. Let's go for a trip. Okay, let's go for another trip." And basically explaining or doing a lore dump at the very beginning. I personally don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
I think it works. It's a jumping on point. I agree that the story doesn't have much stakes. It is a bit silly, but I think it's something to start with and to build up with, and I think there's actually a lot more in the episode than people give it credit for. I think people aren't looking beyond the fart jokes, and actually there is thematic coherence in this episode, and that's what I want to see in a script. That being said, it is still number 8 out of 9 on my list, because I think this series goes into a lot more interesting and better places.
And look how much we've already discussed. We're already at number 8. It's really good.
What I would say about that is the fact you've explained that really well, Zach.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you've almost turned me on it. Almost.
I think you should watch it again, Adam. With those things.
Yeah,
have you?
But I feel like someone would have to tell me that the episode itself doesn't do enough work itself to get me there.
Maybe.
And that's what I'd say. Like, the concept sounds great.
Yeah.
If you said that's the episode that's going to be made, that sounds great. But the execution wasn't there. Yeah.
I mean,
that's the problem with it.
The heartfelt stuff I don't think is the priority in the episode. I think the episode is, oh my god, we're going to travel in time and have fun, and oh my god, it's funny, and there's babies and they're farting.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the execution getting in the way of the concept. And I feel like you just described a really good concept for an episode, but that's not the episode I watched.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely, I definitely agree. I think, like, in terms of the complexity of themes that we're obviously going to touch upon within, and the lights have gone on.
Oh, there we are.
In the camera gone. Yeah, I think like the complexity of themes is far more rich in upcoming episodes we're going to discuss. It's as you say, your explanation, Zach, was perfect on it. Like if that was the episode I ended up watching, I'd be like, this would be really high in my rankings. But it wasn't. Sadly.
I think you guys should rewatch the episode.
Have you rewatched every one of these episodes, by the way?
Yes, yeah.
I think we haven't listened to H1 once.
But I'm kind of like an obsessive.
Yeah.
So I watch them all. I've watched all the commentaries. I watched all the behind the scenes. I just like I need to have everything sucked into my eyeballs.
Yeah.
There's one I watched twice. I think you could probably guess it.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've got to say about Space. I'm not going to go on my Space Baby's defense anymore.
Okay.
So Adam, do you want to do your number 8?
My number 8 is Zach's number 9.
Oh, the Church on Ruby Road.
The Church on Ruby Road.
That is still higher on my
Still
list.
higher on yours.
Okay.
Right, let's go for your number 8, Matthew.
This is going to be controversial, I think. The Devil's Chord.
No, yeah, so that's 7.
Yeah, that's 7 for me as well.
So let's do Devil's Chord.
Because the funny thing is, for me, I have the 987 for me is the first 3 episodes of the season.
Yeah.
I do think that it starts weaker and just gets better and better at this point.
Yeah.
So I'd say I think you guys are going to probably touch upon the villain of Maestro. I think obviously I love the ending where there's always a twist at the end with everyone from Strictly Come Dancing. It kind of really was the essence of how camp his Doctor is, I think, in an essence. For me, this episode didn't quite work because I thought the utilisation of the Beatles was very poor, and it was just kind of talking from experience. They were my nan's favourite band, and there was none of their music in the episode, and I just was really missing that.
Well, can I just butt in there and say...
And you're going to now go on
I'm
saying
going to
I'm
wrong.
say...
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, but the idea of the episode was, let's go meet the Beatles. It's too expensive to license the Beatles music, even with the Disney money. So how can we use the Beatles without any Beatles music? Okay, let's make a episode about the Beatles where music is gone.
The talent is gone.
And that's where the origin... Also, are you not saying, I've got a dog? That's a banger.
Yeah.
That's, oh my God. 20-second snippet of... I can't
remember it.
I can't remember it either.
I've got a dog, he's called Fred. I love my dog, he's not dead.
I think it's just probably because there's a bit of bias because I do actually like the Beatles music as well, and I just really wanted to hear one of their songs, like at the end especially. I just was like, why is there no music? It's fine music, but it's not.
Yeah, both a story reason and the copyright.
I know. The licensing I know was expensive, but I mean.
Yes, that's not an excuse. That's just the reasoning.
Yeah. My very poor reasoning. Well, yeah. Do you want to touch upon the Devil's Chord then? In terms of what?
I think very fun episode. Very fun concept. I was expecting when I saw filming pictures and sort of rumours, I was expecting this to be a musical episode, and I was a bit uncertain that season 1 of a show, episode 2 or 3, depending on how you're counting, I don't think should be a musical episode. So I'm glad it wasn't a musical episode, and I think it was a much more interesting way of doing an episode about music. But I sort of... It was the one episode that I thought maybe could have done with a bit of an extended runtime. I thought at times it felt like a movie. Maestro, oh my God, Jinx Monsoon, what a great piece of casting, what a fantastic villain, a piece of genius to cast a drag queen as sort of the god of music, and to cast the drag queen Jinx Monsoon. I do think sometimes, and it's a symptom of, sometimes Ross T. Davis wraps up a script in a way that's a little bit underwhelming in terms of the way that Maestro was defeated by finding this lost chord. And of course it's 2 of the Beatles that find it. But yeah, I sort of thought that final act where the Doctor and Maestro have a music battle was not as interesting as it could have been. The episode, the first couple of acts, really interesting. There's the scene where the Doctor and Ruby get dressed in the TARDIS. There's some fantastic music, fantastic lighting, fantastic direction, fantastic acting. I'm there. I'm in the 60s and ready to have a good time. There's a scene where they flash forward to see the world without music and it's all destroyed. But I do just think it's a very fun episode. Some fantastic bits, some fantastic performances. By this point, I was in love with the Doctor and Ruby. But the ending didn't quite cut it. The ending sort of is fixed by the fact that they didn't do a musical number, and I'm so down for that. And then there's the one little bit where it's kind of implied that 6 months has passed since Space Babies and the Devil's Chord, which I'm kind of choosing to ignore, but there is a moment in the script where they say, it's now like June 2024 and last episode was Christmas. So I'm going to ignore that. But on the whole, I really enjoyed the Devil's Chord, but again thought the ending let it down a little bit.
So yeah, I'll talk about my experience with this episode. So no, it's just so obviously I wasn't keen on Space Babies. We've just covered that, and then we came into this one, and I was like, I was liking it all. You know, it was like up. Everything was great. The villain was great. The concept was interesting. Everything you just covered on, Zach. Like it was going really well, and then I thought the ending was you know, it just fizzled out. Sort of the music battle wasn't great. I didn't love the fourth. There's a fourth wall break in there, and as a long-time Doctor Who fan, I was like, this is the episode they're going to try that.
There's loads of fourth wall breaks,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go out on the limb and I say that's an unresolved plot point for season 2, I reckon.
Do you? Okay.
Yes, I do.
You think it's like the salt thing we discussed?
I think there's something where, because we see Mrs. Flood break the fourth wall for the first time at the end of the church on Ruby Road, and then Maestro breaks the fourth wall when when Maestro uses they them pronouns, when they play the piano and it becomes the Doctor Who theme. I was watching this at like 1 o'clock in the morning because I watched Space Babies and the Devil's Chord at the midnight release. So it was 1 o'clock. I was tired. My boyfriend was falling asleep on top of me because I had said you can go to bed. He says no, I'll stay up so you're not watching it alone. He did not want to be there. But then Maestro started playing the Doctor Who theme and we both just went, oh my god, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
it was good.
So I think there's some sort of unresolved. The fourth wall breaks, because there's another fourth wall break right at the end of the series, which we'll surely touch upon. I think there's something unresolved because the season 1 and 2 were a 2-season commission by Disney, and RTD has confirmed that there's a big 2-season plan. So some things are unresolved.
I hope you're right.
So do I.
Yeah, I hope it's not just randomly decide to do it just as a gimmick.
Yeah, there's definitely more.
Yeah. Because at first I was like, Maestro breaks the fourth wall, that's okay. But then when the Doctor did it himself, it made me feel a little uncomfortable. He says something like, that's non-diegetic. And I'm like, that was the line where I was like, that doesn't feel very Doctor Who.
Yes,
and I don't like saying that because this is meant to be a new Doctor Who. But at the same time, I still like a little bit of continuity in all my TV show.
Murray Gold is in the episode. There's always a twist at the end. You see him playing the piano, and he's the man that's written the music. The Doctor. I don't know.
That's more meta than Fourth Broker.
I quite like the idea that the Doctor. I don't know. I don't want it to get explored too much, but the idea that the Doctor's slightly aware that he's the main character of a TV show, I think is cool as a throwaway gag.
Yeah. It could work. It just felt a bit like, okay. Like I wasn't ready for that yet.
Because I think it's very cool that Maestro had the power to manipulate the show's soundtrack. It makes sense. This character that can control music, and this show is innately a very musical show, and its soundtrack is so important to it. Yeah, I think that's a cool.
Yeah, like when it stayed on Maestro being the fourth wall breaker, I didn't mind that at all because she's meant to be an out-of-the-world kind of character, a bit like how Marvel do it with the Deadpool and that. But he's the only one that knows, and everyone else is just carrying on. Yeah. I'd have done that, but who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe. It's going to be a big reason behind it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do my number 7 because we will have then discussed the 3 episodes. Mine is the Church of Ruby Road. Church on Ruby Road.
Church on Ruby Road,
I thought this was very much comparable to the Star Beast from the essence that it feels like a very warm introduction to the new world and characters that we love. I actually think that dynamic between the Doctor and Ruby feels very much well established for me from that episode. Like, I actually fully buy into their chemistry. I think it's and I think Ruby's backstory is set up impeccably well. Maybe the reveal, we'll have to talk about that in a bit. I can't remember the name of the villains. I'm blanking. I need
the goblins.
They're just called the goblins.
They're just goblins as far as I remember.
They're goblins here.
I mean, I thought they were goofy, but again, I enjoyed the sing-song they had.
Yeah.
I thought the best scene in this for me was a moment, I believe, where the goblins ate Ruby, and it was almost seeing the adoptive mother's look on her face, Carla's, and then the Doctor
Yeah.
That Ruby's
Yeah,
just
that was a good moment.
That was by far the
yeah.
best moment in the episode for me. It was just a really nice setup. I mean, there's probably not really much else I can really. I've got a lot more to say on the others, but
Yeah. So I'd say Zach called it the weakest one.
Mhm,
Say I would still argue that His Purpose is slightly worse because there's more to this episode. There's the properly introduction to this new Doctor. There's a proper introduction of Ruby. The goblins are just sort of fun, but feel a bit out of place for Doctor Who yet, in my opinion. And the music number felt like, okay. But it works in its own way.
It worked.
I feel like the worst bit of the episode is the ending. It felt well rushed because they just sort of win in the end. As far as I remember it, it's just sort of a big explosion. They win and that's it. And it's like, oh, okay, what? And I haven't watched this one since Christmas, so I'm trying to like pull back on my memory. And I know Zach will probably have seen it 6 times.
Yeah, this is probably because it's the one that's been out the longest.
Yeah.
It's probably the one that I've rewatched because it's the one I had the most problems with.
Yeah.
It's the one I've rewatched the most.
So what were the main problems for you, Zach?
I'll start by praising what I like.
Okay.
So I think Matt is right. The opening, the pre-title sequence, phenomenal. The setup of this great mystery of the woman that leaves a baby on the church on Ruby Road, the soundtrack, the direction, beautiful.
Yeah.
And Ncuti Gatwa, amazing. The problem is, I think the script is a mess. And I've written in my notes, I wrote this great line. Okay, so it's a fun Christmas romp, but the episode runs around clunkily without doing anything interesting subtextually. And I think the sort of post-title sequence, we get this sequence where we're following Ruby during the month of December, and we're sort of seeing her life leading up to her birthday, being plagued by these goblins, and the Doctor's in the background. But then the perspective shifts and we're following the Doctor, so the script can't really commit to who's sort of the main character, who's the focus. It sort of doesn't even flip backwards and forwards evenly. It says, oh, let's follow Ruby's story, but then, for 2 minutes, let's look at the Doctor, which felt... I know that was because apparently Disney asked for an extra scene to introduce the Doctor far earlier in the episode, which they then they did. And I think maybe the Disney execs didn't quite understand what the episode was trying to do, where it follows Ruby until Ruby properly meets the Doctor as he's running across the roof. Because that's a great scene as he runs across the roof and they properly meet for the first time, other than just him in the background in the club, in the pub. What I thought was really messy was the explanation of why the goblins were sort of harassing Ruby for a month. And this whole thing about, if you have a bad day, it sort of sets you into the day and they feed on coincidence. It felt like quite lazy explanations, lazy storytelling, and there was no good reason for why the goblins were harassing Davina McCall other than for a gag about Davina McCall having broken her legs. Which, funny joke, yeah, but I just thought no one has thought out the reasonings behind this script. And then the end, I like that they go up to the goblin ship, they save the baby, the goblin song is a bop, the goblin design is great, and then the goblins take Ruby, that's great. I love the change in atmosphere in the Sunday flat, but then the Doctor going back to the church and saving Ruby, and then he comes back to the flat in the present day, then he runs back to save Davina, he just runs in and out of the TARDIS, and I'm just going... This is the structure of this script is just... I'm not convinced by the setup of the goblins going after Ruby. It's all sort of... It's very uncompelling. And also, I didn't get... Although this is supposed to be the start of Ruby's story, I don't think the script gave Millie Gibson enough to work with. Because as soon as I saw Space Babies... She was fantastic. I was not sold on... This is supposed to be a story that sells me on Ruby Sunday, and I wasn't sold on her. I was sold on Ncuti Gatwa almost immediately. Like, the first time you see him, oh my God, you are amazing, you are the Doctor. So I just think it didn't give enough for Millie to do. And I think maybe that's because the episode spends a lot of time with the Doctor and Ruby apart, and then when they're together, they're kind of just focusing on the baby. So I don't know how you'd improve that. I have ideas how you'd improve some of my other criticisms, but yeah. And so it was a bit odd because this is the Doctor Who's... I'm going on about... Sorry.
No,
this is Doctor Who's first leap into fantasy with the goblins. And I don't think everything needs explaining. Like the fact that their ship can just fly. Fine. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the logic behind why the goblins were doing what they were doing to Ruby... Okay, they want to eat a baby. And babies taste better because of coincidence. I can buy that. But I couldn't buy the other stuff. So I just thought... It just... Fun Christmas romp, but fell apart very quickly the day on Boxing Day when I started thinking about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's like what they were going for with this episode, just the essence of fun. And like, how much fun can we have with this episode? That's the Davina stuff, the thing. But they were throwing everything at the wall and seeing what worked. Some stuff worked really well, and other stuff didn't work very well. Like you say, I think there was a peak when we first introduced the goblins and the dance and all that. That was peak. That was the peak of the episode, and then it was just kind of down from there for me. And I feel like now you think about it, it was a weird introduction to both characters. Yeah. They could have cut a little bit earlier maybe or something like that, trimmed it down to add more for her to do.
And but in the... Sorry, Adam. In the... with the conclusion with it going downhill, apparently in the commentary, there was going to be a big climax at the end, and the reason that the Sunday's flat is so long and thin is because the Goblin King was going to come down from his ship and sort of ooze through the corridor chasing after the Doctor and Ruby. And I thought, that'd be really fun to have that final confrontation, but it didn't work, and so they have to have this episode where they're kind of running all over the place and it doesn't feel like anyone really knows what's going on. Yeah,
you can kind of feel a rewrite in there somewhere.
Yeah, which is not great.
But for what it was on Christmas Day, I was like, that was fun. Yeah, that was nice. You just got on the rest of your day.
I think in my head, I'm going back and going, I must have had my head in my hands. I loved it on Christmas Day. It was just because I do tend to rewatch these things so many times. I was like, oh God, this is falling to pieces. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Not best.
So we covered the first 3 episodes now. So anyone would like to kick us off with number 6?
Okay, so my 5 and 6 were hard to choose between.
Interesting.
But I'm not quite going to rank them equally, but I've decided to go number 6 is the season finale, Empire of Death.
Oh, I say because that is a bit higher on my list.
It's not actually. It's there. It's number 6.
Yours is number 6 as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mine is it's higher for me. Shall I do my number 6?
Go for it, Matt.
Rogue.
Oh no,
that's a lot higher.
That's a lot higher on mine as well.
Wow, must have seen something a bit different in that episode.
No, I had a lot of fun with Rogue.
So on to number 5 now. My number 5. Okay, this is where we're gonna get controversial. My 5 is Dot and Bubble.
No, that's higher.
My 5 is also Dot and Bubble.
Oh, okay.
That's the one where I will go into why, but yeah, I struggle where to place that, because we're now, as of Dot and Bubble, we're in this middle territory where things are actually very good, but things are all... we'll get onto it. But yeah, what was your number 5?
The Legend of Ruby Sunday.
That's my number 4.
That's my number 4.
Well, should we do Legend of Ruby Sunday?
We'll do Legend of Ruby Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, I like the episode. I feel like ranking them last night might have had a sour taste in my mouth because I didn't like the one that came after it as well. And this episode is a big setup episode.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. By the end, I was into it, but I think it took a while to get there for me because there was a lot of setup.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes were very slow.
Very, very slow first 15 minutes. I enjoyed some of it. I found it very odd that they put a lot of focus on that one soldier. I can't remember his name or much about him apart from his from. Yeah, the one that he's dead pretty much.
The one from Cheetham Hill,
Yeah, and they setting up the really, really big, but that guy's dead. But I was a bit like, well, he got about 3 lines, didn't he?
But that's a science fiction trope. It's like
it's red shirts and
Star
I
was going to say there you go. Yeah, that was exactly the
yeah, but it was a bit and then the Doctor just has this breakdown where the Doctor's seen so much of this. And he knows the stakes, so why is he sat there going, oh no, this one guy's dead, when the world's could potentially fall apart? And then they did the granddaughter red herring, which didn't go that. Like, I thought, oh, at least maybe someone's going to be his granddaughter. And maybe again, we've got a series 2, which that could carry on. There could be certain characters that could be. So, like, it felt like a red herring for no reason.
But, I mean, isn't the definition of a red herring that it's there for no reason?
Yeah, but I feel like, why pick the granddaughter when they know that's what fans are craving now? Because you put a craving in people's mouths, but you didn't actually...
Yeah, but I suppose that's so you can punch the audience in the face and you say, just as a punch in the doctor's face where he spends the whole episode thinking, oh my God, she could be my granddaughter. And then it's the god of death.
It's the god of death, yeah. By the end I was like, okay, I'm into this. But it was fine. I think it's just, I liked the episode, but I enjoyed the one-offs more than this.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
When I first watched it, found it really hard to rate, and I had basically rated every single episode out of 10 after seeing them. And this was the first one where I said, actually, no, it's so much. It's like the platonic form of a part 1. It's so part 1-y that it's impossible to rate. And I basically I really hope the finale is really good, so that this episode remains really good. And I was slightly disappointed in that respect. But actually, even after seeing part 2, I was then able to go, actually, I think The Legend of Ruby Sunday is really good, and that's why it's 4th on my list, because I was sat there watching it on the edge of my seat, and I thought when I rewatch it won't be quite the same, but I still think it is. And actually, you guys said the start was really slow. The first 30 seconds of this episode are amazing, with the TARDIS flying into Unit and seeing Unit get ready for the TARDIS to scrape in. Absolutely fantastic. I think the best use of Unit in a while, because Kate Stewart, who's the commander-in-chief of Unit, she's been in the show for just over 10 years now, and Gemma Redgrave, fantastic performer. I just think no writer has quite figured out what to do with her. She's just always sort of there as sort of a liaison between the pseudo-military and the Doctor, and sort of as a sort of a nostalgia bait to say, oh, she's the Brigadier's daughter.
Yeah.
From the classic series. I actually think fantastic use of her consoling the Doctor, basically saying, oh my God, I didn't know you had a granddaughter. That'd be fantastic. There's a fantastic emotional beat there. There's good comedy where the Doctor thinks he's figured out that S Triad is an anagram, and then Kate Stewart gives him his look.
Yeah.
I think Lenny Rush is a great addition.
I was going to say,
Seeing more from Colonel Ibrahim. I think the one person who doesn't really do anything is Rose Noble, who's just sort of stood there. But I have a theory that she's a last-minute write-in because the producers just loved working with Yasmin. What's her last? Yasmin Finney. I think the producers loved her so much they decided to write Rose Noble into the finale here, but she doesn't do very much. But no, I think Unit felt really great, really coherent. It's the kind of episode that makes me go, give us a Unit spin-off. Give me more of these characters. Give them stories. Give me more of them. I felt like I was being teased there. I do get that there was a lot of sort of the Doctor going, okay, we need to solve this mystery, and just sort of explaining it.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite understand the logical leap between the pressing issue is figuring out who this Susan Triad woman is, but also, whilst we're here, I think there may be some link to who Ruby's mother is. That I didn't.
Yeah.
The script tries to make a logical leap that it fails to make, and then it's called The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and so much of the episode takes place in the time window, which is a great set and a great set piece. So much tension there, but ultimately I didn't. Felt a little bit incoherent, and then we go back to Susan Triad at the end for a fantastic reveal that actually she is an avatar of the God of Death, Sutek.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a lot of distaste online for the fact that the God of Death came up with this. It's not actually an anagram of Susan Triad technology can be shortened to Su-Tech. I don't hate it. It's not the kind of thing that blows my mind like the Series 3 You Are Not Alone, Professor Yana.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I mean, maybe I'm a hypocrite because I was just saying about how Church on Ruby Road falls apart when you think about it too much, and I think the script isn't the most incredibly put together, but the parts are so good.
Yeah.
It's so well directed. Its aim is to build suspense, build tension, to make your jaw drop to the floor at the end, having sat on the edge of the seat your entire time. And that was the reaction that I got, and it's the reaction I continue to have every time I rewatch it. And I went to see it, where I rewatched it in the cinema as part of a finale screening. And I think it was. I can see why they put it in the cinemas, because this is an episode that works on the big screen.
Yeah, and like I said to you before, I think you would get more out of this on the big screen than just sat there. Like I just watched it on a laptop, you know.
Yeah.
I do agree with a lot of it. The mystery of Ruby Sunday and the mystery of Sutek could have been handled better.
Yeah.
Because now we know everything, which I'm still a bit like they could have chose one or the other, and I don't think like or left the Ruby Sunday stuff till later on in the story, or make the Sutek stuff later on in the story. There's something there. I still not 100% what was the connection, why there was so much interest.
The resolution of the finale, Empire of Death, is the fact that the two are linked.
Yeah.
Which, again, we'll talk about that maybe. That doesn't really stand much logical analysis.
Yeah. If a lot of this series is don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
A lot of this. I feel like older Who, I'll say older Who, 10 years ago Who, you could do most of the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time. There's episodes, when we get into the final, I'll mention another episode from Old Who, which is very similar in a way, where, like it really felt they thought about everything. Well, this time they've just gone, this kind of works and people will accept it.
So what was your number 4?
My number 4 is Dot and Bubble.
I will do Dot and Bubble.
We'll talk about Dot and Bubble.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear why.
I'll do mine first. I think the top 5 were incredibly hard to rank, because this is when we really stepped up a level. Firstly, Lindy Pepper Bean as a character study, that was amazing. For such a self-righteous, yeah, that's the word, individual who I think's really captured in this sort of Black Mirror like world. I think it's got a lot to say. I found there to be a lot of subtext on sort of like online connections you make with people and how fast can you trust them. I think it has a lot to say on technology. I thought the slugs were amazingly conceptualized. I thought they looked amazing when watching the episode. I love Ricky September as well.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Justice for Ricky September.
Yeah.
I think the most fascinating aspect, though, obviously, the last scene when you will find out it's the first thing Ncuti shot. You were just like, okay, it's a kind of scene where I thought, okay, now I can watch him as the Doctor for years.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it had a lot to say, sort of on. Because it's one of the first times, well, at least that I've seen, because I now be Doctor Who fan compared to Zac, where it's the first time no one's trusted him on his word or taken him that he could save her. And I love the world. Yeah, I thought it was an amazing episode.
Yes. Do you want me to? Right. So, I feel like my only criticism is it's almost too Black Mirror. In a way,
Okay,
it felt a little bit
that.
like, you know, like they've watched a lot of Black Mirror before they've seen this episode and gone, let's do that sort of episode, which is fine. It's like they're trying loads of new things, and that's sort of the point of this series, to try new things. I loved its commentary on like social media and what it had to say about like where this generation could potentially be going. The fact that the dot itself is the killer in the end because it's so like can't take our like personalities. The decision what they did with Ricky September was like probably my favourite part of the episode in a way. Just the way they made what was the main character called?
Lindy Pepper.
Yeah, they made her the villain basically. By the end, she is the villain. She's more the villain than almost the Dot is because of what she chooses to do.
The Dot is the hero.
Yeah, when you find out what kind of society they've made,
Yeah.
the Dot is the hero. Yeah, exactly. Oh, we're in the
It's
darkest.
that's the AI in the room.
Yeah,
doing
he's
it.
not happy about our commentary.
That's gonna be fun to watch on the playback.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode, a nice concept. It falls apart again if you think about it too much, and especially the Dot can kill people, so why do they need the mugs? You know, you can just
you,
fire it.
you don't have to. Yeah,
If you think about that for too long.
I do though. I think that's the only plot hole of the episode,
Yeah,
and I think
but it's a strong one.
I think it's the Dot hates the people so much that it wants to create a really gruesome, horrible death for them.
Yeah, and maybe the bugs like were created some other way, and they were just around. That's like,
Maybe.
and we want to think by the end they're walking into their death.
Yeah.
Because they've got that issue with the Doctor. Yeah.
That issue we skirted around the
Yeah.
fact that they're
Well,
racist.
yeah.
Even though I think very, very cleverly, and it's never explicitly stated, they don't point to the colour of his skin, but it's very, very clear to the way that they look at him, the way they talk to him, the microaggressions throughout the episode, that they're racist. Funnily enough, though, a friend texted me and called them eugenicists, which actually I think they are, because there is a line about preserving the purity of fine time, which is the place. Are you finished with?
Yeah, go for it. No, absolutely.
The reason this was 5 for me, so kind of slap bang in the middle, is I went in with very low expectations.
So
I thought this was going to be. I thought I knew exactly what this episode was going to be. You saw the trailer and go, oh, okay, it's going to be a Black Mirror episode where they're going to say, bear in mind this is written by a 60-year-old boomer trying to write about people our age and our relationship with social media. So I go, oh, social media bad. I was expecting that, and for the most part, I found the first 20 minutes a little bit tedious, because once you've appreciated the kind of world that they're living in, admiring the VFX of the Dot and Bubble, which is very, very impressive, the design of the slugs, which the production called man traps, although that's never actually mentioned on screen. And then it's made really interesting when it becomes a character study of Lindy Pepperbean, and she lets Ricky September die so that she can live, and you get that really powerful scene at the end. Now the thing is, we are a room of 3 white men, and this script was written by a white man and directed by a white man and produced by white men and women. And so I've seen some criticism that perhaps for the first story with a full-time Black Doctor to tackle the topic of race, maybe this was not the right story, and I don't think myself or any of us in this room are perhaps the right people to say yes, that is the case. But in as much as I can do, I think it was a very interesting ending and a very true to character ending for the Doctor to get so upset and feel so helpless at the fact that the thing that the Doctor spent their entire life doing, trying to save people, they can't, and people don't want to be saved because of the colour of his skin. I found that piece of storytelling in the end to be so compelling that this twist, which quote unquote, because it's more than a twist, and it is well seeded throughout the episode, becomes a really powerful piece of character storytelling. And I so appreciate in the companion episode of Doctor Who Unleashed, Ross T. Davis says that when he cast Ncuti, a lot of people asked, oh, how are you going to tackle the Doctor going back in time and facing historical racism? And RTD thought, oh, what if he faces racism in the future? Because people talk about historical racism like racism no longer exists in the 21st century, in the modern day. And RTD, with that genius mind of his, thought, okay, if I put it in the future, it's a challenge to people to say, stop thinking this is a historical issue. This is a present day issue, and if we don't buck our ideas up, if we don't get out of the echo chambers, out of the bubbles that we exist in, things aren't going to get better. And that's a narrative that with RTD's LGBT storytelling, that he has this narrative of, if we don't keep fighting, if we don't keep fighting the good fight, things will get worse and not better. So actually, I think for what I really enjoyed that aspect of the storytelling.
Yeah, that's like it was subtle as well. Wasn't too like this is you know, like this is the idea behind the episode. It took me a while to go, oh okay, yeah. When he was like well, I don't know what the actual phrase to use when the Doctor first came on his screen, but it was like, like almost blocked. Was it blocked? It was
blocked,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah,
It
like so like it set it down. At first, you just think, oh, it's because he's hacking the system. It's classic Doctor Who, and then you go, oh wait, and then the more it goes on, the more it goes on.
Yeah.
You finally, but it took me till the end for the penny to really drop for me. But I think that's very good storytelling.
What a jaw-dropping ending, genuinely.
Yeah.
I said that about The Legend of Ruby Sunday, but I almost found this more compelling, even though it's lower down on the... I just think for the first 20 minutes or so, I was kind of like, oh, can I go now?
Yeah, because it, like I say, it felt Black Mirror and not Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was actually more enjoyable on the rewatch when you when you know
the ending,
and then you go, oh, you see the whole episode in a new light, and you go, oh, I now hate Lindy Pepperbean. Let's hate watch Lindy Pepperbean.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because when Ricky died on the first viewing, I was really conflicted because I thought Ricky was an amazing character. And
yeah, well, he was an actual genuinely nice guy,
yeah, genuinely
which
nice.
they could have gone, oh, he's like an influencer, like, well, what their version of influencer was, so let's make him like arrogant and all the rest
of it. He was like a normal bloke in the end.
Yeah, and he was the best person that lived there.
Yeah,
because he was the only one who actually cared about saving someone else other than himself. Yeah, but those had to die for that ending to work.
Now we're on to number 3s, because I think the only ones, well, you had Empire at 6 and I had Rogue at 6, so my 3 is Empire of Death.
Let's talk about Empire of Death.
Yeah, let's do it. Matt, do you want to go?
I'll go, because I had the I'm probably one of the few people who've got part 2 above part 1. I didn't know who Sutekh was, interestingly, because I haven't watched old Doctor Who. So when that revelation came at the end of Legend of Ruby Sunday, I kind of did actually get chills still, and that's a testament to how they did that reveal. I think it was Ncuti's reaction as well, which really was like, holy crap, what are we dealing with? And I think this episode really opens well with quite a captivating destruction of the world. I mean, the way the world is just wiped out like by dust is just mental. It felt almost like Infinity War in essence in the end.
Yeah, I got that vibe. Yeah.
I thought the Doctor, Ruby and Mel had a very strong dynamic, especially when they all escaped in the TARDIS. I loved how there was almost at one point the TARDIS that had a bit of everything sort of from each Doctor. Well, I was very nostalgic. I thought Mel's possession scene felt very believable. It's a really interesting one because I think there is so much for me that worked in this. I think the opening and the final 15 minutes are masterful. I think the middle part of maybe Sutek's defeat is the only questionable thing for me. Yeah. But it almost, this episode for me had sort of the spectacle and epicness, which is why I fell in love with Doctor Who. And I've someone who's been out of it, I thought the character work I thought was exemplary. I mean, that Doctor and Ruby connection is like really capitalised at that at the end in particular. A sort of like that human connection, seeing how they've both kind of changed each other. I thought that was really human and very authentic. I'll get your perspective on it. Why was it number 6 then?
Okay, so I will first of all, can I just say, so I did see The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death in the cinema, and when Legend of Ruby Sunday ended, there was a 15-minute interval, and something happened in that 15-minute interval that sort of changed my perspective. In that, bear in mind, this was being screened in 290 cinemas across the country, most of which had to put on 2 screens. And I went to the View in Salford Quays, Manchester Quayside.
Nice cinema.
Beautiful cinema.
Yeah.
And during the interval, a man stands up on the back row. It's only Russell T Davies. Turns out I just watched The Legend of Ruby Sunday with him, and I was about to watch Empire of Death for the first time with the man who wrote it. So that sort of changed the atmosphere of the cinema, and it was electric. People were applauding, people were cheering, people were crying, people were hooting.
I've never had that like before, like that sort of American experience where you see like every time they watch a Marvel film they freak out.
Exactly. It was so for that, and even before
really
all of us realised at the end of Legend of Ruby Sunday when it was Sutekh, people applauded, and then when everyone died at the beginning of Empire of Death, people were going no. It was probably the most magical cinema experience I've had, and it wasn't even a movie. That being said, I kind of think that opening should have been the end of Legend of Ruby. I mean, I like the ending. Of
Yeah,
Legend of Ruby
I could
Sunday,
see that. Yeah.
but because I have this whole theory about one of the things that kind of makes stakes in Doctor Who not work is the reset button. You know, at the end of every single episode of Doctor Who, that everything's going to get reset / fixed, and then the Doctor's going to get into the TARDIS and go somewhere else next week. So kind of, when everyone dies in the first 5 minutes, you kind of know that in 40 minutes' time they're going to be alive again.
Yeah,
Which,
it's interesting,
I
thought it was very well done, though.
I
Like,
think-
I thought you got the real sense of Sutekh for if
Yes,
you don't know who
Carl.
they are.
Yes,
They don't know
exactly.
who this person is. Like, because I didn't watch the Pyramids of Mars before this. So Sutekh's introduction for me was these 2 episodes, and I just was like, holy crap.
He's powerful. He's powerful, and also, I think the CGI design is fantastic. This is probably the most CGI a Doctor episode has ever used. The bit where they're traveling through the vortex, and I think it's the first time they've made a monster and not used a practical model. They had like a green screen puppet that was very, very bare bones, but they were like, we're not even going to attempt to build a Sutekh puppet. And it's probably the best CGI I've seen in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
The climax of Sutekh being leashed to the TARDIS and sort of dragged through the time vortex. I think, again, it has the same problem of when you think about it for too long, the script falls apart. My favourite bit is the ending. I actually love the conclusion to Ruby's story.
I'd agree.
The fact that her mum is quote unquote nobody, and the fact that she was just a 15-year-old who hid a teenage pregnancy, growing up in an abusive home, and wanted to give that baby a better life, brings me to tears. The reunion with her mother is beautiful.
I thought it was really.
The acting, amazing, and the acting from the Doctor looking in through the door, not wanting Ruby to be reunited with her birth mother because that's something that he can never have, and he was kind of enjoying the fact that him and Ruby were the same, and now Ruby's moving forwards while he can't. I think beautiful piece of storytelling, and then him essentially saying that she has to take a break from the TARDIS because she's got to live her own life. I mean, moved me to tears. The only thing that didn't work is it doesn't explain anything that's happened in the series. Why can Ruby make it snow? There's a throwaway line. There's a throwaway line in the Legend of Ruby Sunday about how it's like a sensitive point in time. But then, why was Sutekh so interested? I mean, I've read fan theories that try and explain it a little bit, whereby time was shielding her, and because there was so much interest. But it's a bit of a paradox in that I think this was set up to be the great mystery.
Yeah.
And then the twist is that there actually is no great mystery. It's a great idea. I don't think it was executed well. I think it was actually because it's inspired by the Star Wars sequels and how in the second film, The Last Jedi, it's revealed that Rey's parents are nobody, and RTD didn't like that was then overturned and her grandfather was made to be Palpatine. He enjoyed the Last Jedi twist, but I think he's done it in a way that I thought, I was expecting something else, and it's on the rewatch that you go, actually, it's a beautiful story. But you don't get to appreciate the beautiful story because the mystery, I don't think, is resolved, and I think this is actually not going to get explained in the next season. And the scene where Ruby's mother's pointing at the lamppost. When the Doctor goes to the church on Ruby Road in the episode The Church on Ruby Road, there's no lamppost there.
Oh, right, okay.
There's no lamp.
Oh, okay.
So I've not gone back and
continuity
checked
there.
that,
Is that a production error? Because if so, that's pretty appalling, actually. I'm holding. There's part of me that's holding out some hope, and I kind of see what they were trying to do. But the fact that the way they seduce, the way that they defeat Sutekh is through this mystery of who. That's how they tie the two things together. They say that the reason Sutekh hasn't killed the Doctor and Ruby and Mel is because he wants to know who Ruby's mum is. Well, what do you mean? The all-powerful god of death, who's literally just killed everybody in the universe. Are you telling me that he couldn't figure out it was some woman called Louise?
Yeah.
I don't buy it. And also, I've only seen part of the Pyramids of Mars, but it shows a Sutek as this powerful being who does not care about the human race. He thinks we're pathetic. Why on earth would he care about whose Ruby's mum is? Surely he'd be like, I don't care, just kill her. Just, you're dust. There you are. The universe is quiet now. I'm happy. I don't buy it, unfortunately. I think there's a beautiful human story there that's sort of been wrapped up with this great science fiction mystery.
Yeah.
And they don't add up.
Yeah. It beautiful idea, but it didn't work as well as it could have done. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about the whole episode. Most, like, the way that they dragged him through time and everything just got fixed. It really reminded me of the Last of the Time Lords. Is that the title of the episode? You know how the Doctor comes back at the end because people believe in the Doctor?
Yeah.
Which isn't quite as bad as this, but I always felt, because I've watched that so many times, I love that episode.
I won't hear any Last of the Time Lord slander, sorry. I
love that episode, but I do think it's a bit of an ex machina in the fact that it's kind of just...
Okay.
It's kind of just, he gets, like, Jesus power.
Hot take. That's not a Deus Ex Machina, because the episode sets up the fact that there's this satellite binding the human race together.
Okay.
The Empire of Death, on the other hand, does not set up the fact that if you bring death to death, you bring life. I mean, okay, the double negative does make sense, but it doesn't. Logically, I don't think it works.
Sorry.
I think it's it's poor.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you go back onto the other finales, because I love a good Doctor Who finale, I really do. Yeah. And all Russell T Davies' other finales are all stronger than this. Like, all of Russell T Davies' finales are all better than this, because logically they've had more time to set them up. They didn't have as many episodes to set them up this time, but it's just like every single one sort of works, and you go, oh, I see, that thing from the other episode means that, but this time there was none of that. It was just sort of, here's your explanation. If you're not happy with it, don't think about it. That was how it felt like by the end, and you've basically covered a lot of how I feel there, Zach, about the whole thing. Like, I like it's basically, this is how you do Last Jedi, but better sort of ending. Yeah. Yeah, and I like the fact that it was no one in a way, but it was also like, why did Sutek care? Like, oh, there's one last mystery in the universe and I must solve it. I was like, but you haven't established that that's your character. If it was a character who was obsessed with solving mysteries, like, then it would make sense. Like, he's crazy on puzzles, a bit like, you know, like, that's kind of like, well, instead his motivation, I want to kill everything, but I also want to solve this one mystery, and I don't know why I want to solve it, and I'm not going to really talk about it. And then it just sort of happens. He sort of gets this lead, drags him away, and it just all sort of happens all of a sudden, and it's just like, oh, everything's very easily fixed. And I think you're right, the dusting should have come in the last one. Because in this one I was like, well, these are all characters they've really well established, and most of them have only had an episode, and they're definitely coming back. Like, all these characters, they're not killing all these characters. It's not happening. And then the universe side, I was like, right, okay, so give it half an hour. This is going to be fixed. Which I feel like takes away the stakes that set up on the last one a little bit. Because obviously, you know, when you watch any show and the universe ends, that it's not going to be that's how I'm going to end it. It's never going to be that bold of an ending, but that's why my problems were there with this episode. But there was some fun bits. My favourite bit, actually, I think, was when Ruby was leaving. Yeah. Not dissing Ruby. It was just the more they did it. Like, she was saying, well, I can go. And then she got that phone call about her dad. And then she's like, oh, no. And it's so obvious that my life's too busy for this now, Doctor. And the Doctor's just 100% already knew that was coming before she did. And I really like that scene. I think that scene's the best scene of the whole episode. I think it's a real human scene.
It's really much like a lot of these scenes are really well acted just through facial expressions rather than any sort of dialogue more than anything. I think and it's not a tragedy ending for Ruby. Like, she's obviously going to be back.
Yeah.
I hope she's back.
She might be back, yeah. But
she is back here.
Yeah.
The Christmas special, the next series.
The Christmas special, the Doctor will be on his own.
Oh,
and it's supposed to be an exploration of what it is for the Doctor to be alone.
They've done that.
Which-
They've done that like
which
They've
once
done
or
that before.
Which I
twice.
thought was superbly captured in the end of Tennant's run. What it means
Yeah,
to be
Waters
alone.
of Mars and episodes
Oh,
like
that's
that.
amazing,
Yeah,
but-
crazy good episodes.
Yeah, I believe Nicola Coughlan of Derry Girls fame and Bridgerton fame is guest starring. So I think maybe she's the guest companion role.
the Kylie Minogue
But
kind.
it's, yeah.
I'll defend Voyage of the Damned. I really like that.
Yeah,
Oh,
episode.
no,
that's
that's a
great.
fun
It's the most
episode.
most
That nearly
watched
made my top
episode.
10 Tennant episodes when we did.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Thinking about it, probably if I redid it now, it probably actually maybe would. We'd have to do. I'd have to do a Tennant rewatch, and because I think my ranking would change like entirely. But no, it's really. Yeah, I'm very. Two questions I kind of want to ask on Empire of Death. Then I mean, because you obviously saw it in the cinema, did he get like a round of applause at the end?
We applauded the episode, and then everyone turned around and applauded the man at the back who wrote it.
Did you get the
could
sense
not.
of though, like, of coming out like it was going to be divisive? Because like I spent an hour on Twitter just reading reactions of like all across the board. Like this is probably the one episode of Doctor Who this series that there's not a definitive answer. It can be sort of like any.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say that apart from the one that definitely doesn't have a definitive answer. I felt internally conflicted. I went to see it with my good friend Pip, who you both know,
Mm-hmm.
and Pip turned to me and said, "Well, what do you think?" And I go, "I can't possibly say when the man who wrote it's in the room because I knew in my inside that it was going to be divisive. You couldn't. The reactions in the room were, the guy sat to my right was weeping at the ending, and I was close to tears. I cried.
I was close as well.
I cried
like
on
that last
the rewatch.
conversation was
Yeah.
just
So it's
impeccable.
hard because it ends so strongly. I think you kind of forget that it's a little bit disappointing in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's hard. And then I went on Twitter, and usually when I go on Twitter and see, like, my number one was very, very divisive on Twitter, and I was a staunch defender. Anyone came up with criticism, I'd be like, no, you're wrong.
Ooh.
With this, the criticisms I think are harder to back down
Yeah.
because it does feel like an earlier draft of the script.
I think
Go on, Matt.
I'll say because I do admit there is faults, but I think the human story in this is really why it's got so high for me. I think just because it was very authentic.
I just feel like that's such a small part of the episode, though, man.
No, I thought it was a very big part of the
Which is
episode.
what I just thought. The weaker stuff of the episode was really quite weak, but the strong stuff was so
Yeah.
strong. It's why it was. It's firmly middling
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. It's a middle of the road Doctor Who episode, which
It's a
usually the
yeah.
finales aren't.
Yeah.
In the past, my finales have always been, oh my
Exactly,
god, like one of my favourite Who episodes is Parting of the Waves, the Chris Eccleston ending.
That's
I
phenomenal.
love that.
That's
I
breathtaking.
love
That's his best episode, I'd argue.
Yeah. I don't know how you
That's
feel about
another
Parting of the Waves. Like,
I know it's great.
yeah, it's great.
It's probably his best. Bad Wolf parting the ways. Is
Yeah.
probably
Two-parter.
the
Is it-
best finale he's written.
Yeah, it feels like a movie. I watch it almost as a movie, like once a year, just as a thing to enjoy.
Although that has a literal Deus Ex Machina. A god walks out of the machine at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. But
But
at the same time,
it's-
it's just she
it's a-
absorbed the time vortex, and they do cover why that
which
could
is
never happen
established two
again.
episodes earlier. It's a part. So the first series of Doctor Who in 2005 is near perfection.
Yeah, it's
that's
hard
the
to
story.
compare that
Okay.
to what we have now,
Yeah,
because I don't think anyone could repeat such a good series of television.
He couldn't. The man himself couldn't even do it. No.
No, that is like, so I don't want to just compare it. Go, oh well, this is not this, but
Yeah, no.
you can't really do that going back. There is a little bit about Sutek always being in the TARDIS, which I was a bit like, does that work
yeah, that
considering
was a
what
bit,
the
yeah.
TARDIS has been through over the years?
You know what I felt would have benefited this? A longer running time, like a
Mm.
90-minute episode, I think would have done this justice. I think like this probably would have been like, I think we would have been high ranked for you at least.
Maybe,
would
but
it?
what do you add?
Yeah, I
More explanation, to be honest.
No, I think you just because there's a lot of faff. There's a lot of
Mm.
stuff that you don't need, and again, it's all about. I like a tight script and a tight
I do
season.
hope Sutek
fair
comes
loose.
back though somehow. Like I think they
Potentially,
needs
but
to
I
be-
don't see it in the near future.
I don't know what else RTD would do with him if this is what
Yeah.
he's done with him. He's established that he's very, very, very powerful villain, but then it's a case of, how do you defeat the bad guy? And it's a bit.
Yeah,
Nah.
he's not a master or something like that who can evolve and change, so he has different things coming up each time. So, because when you get a master story, you get a different. You've had Missy, you've had all this different stuff with a master. Sutek doesn't feel like that. He's just deaf, and that's it. There's not much layer to him.
Sutek wants everyone in the universe to die, and he did that.
Did Pip enjoy it out of interest? Or?
I think she was equally in shock, but yeah, I think she did. I think she especially enjoyed the human end. I mean, I'm speaking for her. I don't know.
Cool Pit now get one of the local. Yeah. I think we're enough said on Empire of Death. I think it's your number 3 now because I've done my 3.
Back number 3.
Boom.
Boom. It's the same.
Boom's your number 3?
Boom's my number 3.
Well, that's my number 2. I think we'll recap all these at the end.
We'll talk we'll do Boom. Boom. Talk about Boom
Let's
next.
do Boom, yeah.
It's just Boom, not Boom. Boom.
We're just saying Boom a lot, that's all.
That's our review of Boom by Stephen Moffat.
Or Tick Tick Boom.
It was nice to have Moffat back.
Yeah, it was great.
That's how I feel, like, because obviously by the end Moffat got a little bit, I don't want to say tired, but he just got a little bit like.
He had a second. He had a second. What's that? Second wind with Series 10.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, no. I think he dipped a little bit in the middle, but series. Anyway. I'm not gonna. This isn't a Moffat.
Yeah, we could do that one, babe.
I need to pull up his IMDb, see what he's done. But yeah, I thought Boom really reminded me sort of the essence of like the confined nature of Doctor Who when it works at its best. It reminded me of like Midnight, particularly. Mm-hmm. You really felt the stakes. I thought Ncuti's performance was stunning, to be honest. I thought he really sort of just when he's trying to balance himself on the ticking bomb, you're like, oh, God, this could literally go off any second. And you know he's obviously in the upcoming episodes, but I think creating tension when you sort of know the outcome is a very hard thing to do in a film, and I think it's done really well here. I'll let you talk while I look at Stephen Moffat's writing credits.
Yeah, a fantastic approach to a Doctor Who episode where you sort of approach Doctor Who episode and go, what if X? And this is what if the Doctor stood on a landmine and couldn't move for an entire episode of Doctor Who. Genius concept, because one of the core tenets of Doctor Who is grab your hand and run for your life. This is an episode with no running. It's in one location, and because it's so masterfully directed by Julianne Robinson that you forget it's in one location. It's thematically and subtextually a very, very rich episode. It's an episode that has something to say and says it. It's all about faith and war.
AI as well, in essence, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
That
the criticism I have of this episode, and I'm starting to think maybe I jumped on the Stephen Moffat hype wave and ranked it a little bit too highly, but I shouldn't second guess myself because it's a very strong, very tight script that makes sense. I think the conclusion. I sound like a broken record. This conclusion was a little bit unsatisfying because the tension is built so masterfully high with the Doctor on the landmine, and then Ruby gets shot, which is such a well done.
My heart did stop.
And genuinely, you know she's in the next episode, but I was like, oh my gosh, the ambulance was such a menace with the sharp scratch. I do then think at the end that it was. The AI of the little girl's dad defeats the landmine and the entire villain guard algorithm with the power of paternal love. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. A little bit boring. I thought for such a clever script, what a weak payoff. I mean, it makes sense, but I could have thought, come on, you could have thought something better there. That's my only criticism of the episode, because I do think it's like a really good play. Really clever.
Okay, I can see that. So when I started, obviously the first two I've already talked about, probably quite disappointing. As the first two were going, I was I don't know how I'm feeling about this Doctor Who. This was the one that made me go, this was a really good episode of Doctor Who again. And I finally was like, I'm on board for everything now after that episode, and I was glad Moffat got a chance to to go again
Yeah.
and do an episode of Telly, and you can really see how he's a different writer than Russell T, but he's also a great writer in his own, you know. When he's got an idea, and he's obviously had a time away now, and he's come back and he's had this idea, and it was a good, solid episode. I agree, the ending could have been better, but I still thought it worked. As an episode of Doctor Who, there's quite a lot of episodes that wrap up quite neatly. Even in some of the better episodes of Doctor Who, that criticism can be said. So I really enjoyed every bit of it. I thought the world that they built in this very short amount of time felt really well.
Yeah.
The pastors, I think they were called. Were they called the pastors, the soldiers? Something like that. They've already been established in a previous previous Stephen Moffat era. Yeah. They did a Weeping Angels episodes with them as well.
Martial clergymen.
Yeah, and I kind of like that's part of the world. It was like, oh yeah, I remember. It felt like it was going back into old Who in a way that worked well, and it was like connecting the two again. And I'm like glad they did that, because until that point, this series hadn't touched on anything previous established in Doctor Who much, apart from the obvious stuff, Time Lords and TARDISes. So yeah, and I was just really happy with the episode, and the way they built tension, it builds and builds till that ending. It really builds, and that's just what that's what a great episode of television should be, without all this messy pacing of let's run about and have a crazy wacky adventure. It was kind of like Doctor Who got a bit of edge back, and I like a bit of edge to Doctor Who. I don't need it all to be like let's do this, yay, now it's going to happen, let's hug and
a very
dance.
Clever episode placing in the season, because you get there's Christmas special, Space Babies and The Devil's Chord, which are fun, and there's a little bit of stakes within Maestro, but ultimately that ends in a dance number, and you've got Russell T Davies saying in interviews, "This is the funnest series of Doctor ever. I'm sick and tired of producers talking about dark seasons of TV." And then you watch Boom, and it's like a slap in the face, because the world is visually gloomy. You're in this rubbly crater, and you genuinely think that people might... I mean, there is that one character death, which comes
and I really like
instantly.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent.
It's really dark, and it was exactly what I think the season needed at that point.
It was like there was just this very short romantic subplot, and suddenly bang, he's gone. Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay, this series is capable of doing more, more dark and heavy stuff. And obviously that came real in the next few episodes later on, with episodes we're still to talk about. But yeah, I'm glad that that did happen. This episode does exist, and it isn't all fun. Because there is a place in Doctor Who for both. The joy of Doctor Who is it can be a lot of different things every time. With it also having a through line of its stories. I mean, it's one of the few shows in the world that can do that and do it well. Yep. So when it's doing that well, that's when it's at its best. So So are we now all on our number twos? Have you still got number three?
Because Boom was my number two, so you can do your number twos. Yeah.
Okay, my number two is Rogue.
This wasn't my number two, which means we got the same number one.
Oh. So what is Matt?
Yeah, Rogue was number 6 for me.
Yeah, way down there, wasn't it? I just remembered that. Yeah. So Matt, why is it your number 6? Let's start with that.
Firstly, I think that's probably one of the best guest appearances from Jonathan Groff. I thought he was absolutely amazing in the episode, and particularly that dynamic he shares with the Doctor. I think when they both talk about the loss of loved ones, I think it's very elegiac. I loved the shapeshifter villain. I think that was really good. It's questioned why it's so low down on my list. It's just that it's the natural, it's instinct on these things. I think you have to go. Okay. I think to me it was like the first 3, then it was like, I don't know, I thought that the other 5 were in a league of its own. I thought this could have been a 2-part, personally. I would have been really happy with it being
I don't think that myself.
I think so many people say, oh, it needs a longer runtime, could be a 2-parter.
And it might be my own personal...
You lose what's special about it being a tight script.
Might be my own personal bias, but I thought the Bridgerton stuff with Ruby I hated. That's just my personal... Because I think Bridgerton sucks.
I've got no interest in Bridgerton. I'll say that much. I've never watched it. It's not my kind of TV.
My gripe with this is I've never seen Bridgerton, but I'm a Jane Austen fan, And
Yeah.
so like a Regency episode could have made reference to like the Queen of the Regency
Yeah.
literature.
And that won't age as much.
Yeah, exactly.
It will age
exactly.
because Bridgerton's just it's not the thing of the moment. It's not the groundbreaking television. It's just a show that's a bit popular on Netflix right now, and that's what Bridgerton is. It was a bit like if 10 years ago they did a Downton Abbey episode. It was
Yeah, it's
people
true.
are still talking about Downton Abbey, but it is going out of the zeitgeist.
But
Yes.
and here's my but. We knew going in because of the trailers that
Mm.
this episode was going to make reference to Bridgerton, and I did think, ooh, a bit naff.
Yeah.
But the way that the episode then makes the Cholder, the
Cholder, yeah.
shapeshifters, makes them be cosplayers who have seen
Yeah.
Bridgerton and are trying to dress up and have fun with it, I think is the funnest way and most interesting way they could have dealt with that, rather than just have Ruby go, oh my god, it's so Bridgerton, look at me, I'm from 2024, I've watched Bridgerton.
Yeah.
It's it's almost a commentary on people like that, and commentary on fans of television cosplaying, and I thought, what a really fun concept to play with.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that saved it from that, from it being
Yeah,
like,
that's-
from it being just like, oh, this is going to be about what's popular now, and let's talk about this show and hope that people who like Bridgerton go, oh, Doctor Who's doing Bridgerton this week, I'll tune in for that. You know, like trying to get
Yeah.
people on board. Well, instead it was still doing Who. You know, it was
Yes.
still being its own show, and it had something to say. You basically covered that,
Yeah.
but
What,
yeah.
You have it you have it really high, Adam.
Yeah.
You have it too. Like, so
Yeah.
do I. But why do you have it so? You sounding almost negative. You're more negative than Matt is.
I'm not negative.
I'm not negative on it at all. To me, it's like the first 3 episodes. Then, like every other episode, to me is like really good. It's just it's nip and tuck with these things. I think.
So, like you, my experience going in was, I think this episode isn't going to be great, and I was so surprised by it. And I think I was surprised by it by one, it felt like a proper episode of Doctor Who more than quite a lot of this episode, this series. It felt like going, like if you made this 10 years ago and it was Downton Abbey or something like that, it would just be the sort of same kind of episode. Because it felt like that. Every bit of it was fun. The script was great. Everything's tight.
Yeah.
It moved at a really great pace. Rogue was a really good character.
Yeah.
I loved it. I want to see him back. If
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah,
I
if they
think-
can, they might. It might go the way of the Doctor's daughter, where you want him back, but you just never quite get him. But yeah, people have compared him to Captain Jack, but I feel like that's the point in a way, because he does have there's a load of similarities there. He's almost a mirror of the Captain Jack character from the original
He
series
is and
1.
he isn't, because you don't see that there's no romantic relationship between the Doctor and Jack. There's some sort of like Jack kind of is in love with him, but will never go on to. But
well, I think he has a line, doesn't he, Jack? Everyone's in love with the Doctor, kind of thing.
but
So yeah, but there are loads of parallels. You could go on about like he wears blue. He's a scoundrel that travels in time. He's in old timey England again, and even the taking the mick out of the screwdriver. That's sort of what Jack did originally, and all that sort of stuff. So there was loads of parallels to Jack, but it was an interesting character to introduce, and he made the episode a lot better. And it's just so much fun. The fight sequences in it, that was a great bit. That was like, wow. I was like, yay, this is good. And then the villains were good as well.
Yes.
They were very campy Doctor Who villains.
Yep.
And they worked, and it made me feel like I did back in the day.
Yep.
That's why I like this episode.
Yes, absolutely. It's classic Doctor Who. Every single episode of this series has been really experimental and pushing the formula of the show, so that then when we get to a very formulaic episode of Doctor Who, it feels different. And then Kate Herron and Bryony Redman, who wrote it, do something just make it such a fun script. And there's so much I can say, but I think I will say, because you guys haven't said it, and I think I'm the one who should say it, seeing the Doctor be in a same-sex, queer, romantic pairing so unashamedly on my television screen makes me want to cry tears of joy. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a reaction to Kate Herron, who co-wrote the episode, directed the first season of Loki on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
And in that series, one random line, Loki makes reference to the fact that he's bisexual.
Yeah, I remember.
Which Kate Herron said was very meaningful to her as a bisexual woman, being able to direct that. But then loads of things going on behind the scenes. Rusty Davis saying that's a craven, feeble gesture towards LGBT representation in mainstream media, in sort of mass fantasy franchises. And so this is a reaction saying, okay, let's make a really, really gay episode of Doctor Who. And I think it's fantastic. And it wasn't just thrown in for its own sake. It's a well-built, meaningful relationship that builds over the course of an episode. Yeah. And yeah, I know, I agree. I wasn't, before that, I wasn't entirely excited about it before going in. I went in with not quite expecting it to be bad, but I didn't know at all what to expect, and had so much fun. There's the scene in Rogue's ship where the Doctor's dancing to Kylie Minogue. Fantastic, so much fun. When Ruby fights one of the Chulda to a string quartet cover of Poker Face by Lady Gaga. Fantastic. That's what Doctor Who should be all about. Like the tiny gripe about how when Ruby gets trapped in the trap to send the Chulda to some other dimension and Rogue is able to push her out, you're kind of like, does that make sense? The episode hasn't really explained or set up that that's how the things work. I think it's the first time in the series where I've seen a plot hole really and gone, yeah, I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah.
It worked emotionally. That moment works.
Yeah.
And Rogue, sort of through the 40 minutes that we've just spent with him on screen, so however long it has actually been an episode of him meeting the Doctor and sort of realising there's more to life than being a bounty hunter, and realising that Rogue has no one and the Doctor has no one, but the Doctor has no one and Ruby. It makes sense for Rogue to sacrifice himself so the Doctor can keep Ruby, even if that
I really
means
like that moment.
the Doctor and Rogue can't be together. It emotionally, that moment's works. I don't actually, for a moment, I don't care about the story logic. So I am the biggest hypocrite on this episode of this podcast. But yeah, what a fun, joyous, queer Doctor Who episode. Just like, give me that every single week.
Yeah, I feel like it's the best one where you could just not know anything about Doctor Who and sit down and watch it. Yeah. And just go, oh, this is a good episode of television. It's, I talked about the pacing and all the rest of it, but I think it is. It's a well-paced episode with just a decent story. You don't need to really think more than that about it. And and
it's quite simple, really. You got evil aliens that are going to kill everyone, because they've got their own motivations, and that's what the companion looks after that side of the story. And then there's a love story. Yeah. And just the dialogue's great, the direction is great, there's so much humour in the episode. It's a delight to watch every single minute, and it really lets the actors act their hearts off. And yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. That Disney money paying for Jonathan Groff,
he was amazing.
Probably
the best guest star of the series, I could argue. Or am I...
Jinx Monsoon, maybe?
No, I thought he was better than Jinx.
The voice of Sutek coming back. I'm trying to think who else.
Yeah.
Lenny Rush.
Oh, he was great. I found it so funny when he first turned up. I don't think I've actually ever seen him in anything except Doctor Who. I've just seen him on YouTube for some reason.
I watched him in Am I Being Unreasonable? Yeah. And that was the when he blew up, and I just I saw reels of him in that. So I watched the whole series based on a couple of reels I saw on iPlayer's Instagram. Fantastic, and I'm so glad that they cast him in that, and they've hinted to the fact that he will be back.
He was in a co-op actually. Oh dear.
He's what?
I saw him in a co-op. Random.
Really?
Yeah, I saw him in the co-op a good couple of months ago. He might have just done Who or something, but yeah.
They did Who a long time.
Yeah,
over a year
this
ago.
has been this has
Long
been
time ago.
because of the post-production you were saying about it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like because you commented saying it could have been longer, but I disagree with that. I feel like it was...
That's just me, yeah.
I feel like it was perfect the way it was, because I don't know... Like, all you were doing was adding more to it. Well, it was meant to feel like, there's your story. Instead of it, you didn't want that. This wasn't a two-parter. It wasn't a family of blood, something like that.
Very simple. Very simple story.
Very simple.
Very simple. And sometimes simple is best.
Yeah.
Because you don't go out of it going, okay, you didn't explain half of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because going back to our Tennant ranking, a lot of those... For both of us, were one-offs.
Yeah.
And those were the best examples of tight stories
Yeah.
told very well. Your Blinks, your Girls in the
Yeah.
Fireplace, your Midnights. They're
Yeah.
incredible as they are. You don't need anything more than that.
I do agree, and I think if that final moment, as we said, where Rogue sacrificed, probably the highlight of the episode. I think there's a lot to be said on, like, you can either save one person you love or save the entire world. It's like it's a good morality question. So I think underneath there's some really good subtext. It's just nature of the rankings. I feel really bad that it was number 6.
This is what I hate. I hate ranking, and I had to do this.
Mate,
for this
try doing it
podcast.
for the top 10 of the year,
I
mate.
just no, I'm personally, especially when it comes to Doctor Who, I think it's an immoral thing to do. To
Moral of that story. I think we've probably saved the most interesting one for the end. Number 1 for me is 73 yards.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement.
number 1 for me is
Yeah.
73 yards.
73 yards. We're all in agreement, which is nice.
Yeah, that's a reg. We all had different ones for Tennant, and this is kind of like a...
Yeah. I think it shows how big of a standout it is. Zach, do you want to go first? 'Cause I feel
There's a
like
lot
you've
to
got
say
a
on
lot
this.
to say.
Yeah, I can actually. And this is the one where I watched it, and at midnight. I watched all of them at midnight, apart
Okay.
from Dot and Bubble.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting with a little blanket wrapped around me, genuinely in the first half when we're in this Welsh little pub, on the edge of my seat, going, "What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Oh my God, this is so atmospheric. This is so fantastic," and enjoying where RTD would push the script, and then at the end going, "Oh my gosh, I want to talk about this. I want to think about this," and then going onto Twitter and seeing how everyone was like, "Well, that was the biggest load of rubbish I've ever seen in my entire life," and I am on the 73 yards defense army. Anyone who
I think we
says
all are.
anyone who says it's rubbish needs to have a long, hard look at themselves and actually have an engaged brain and think. I genuinely think Doctor Who can never be the same again after this episode, because 73 yards proves that Doctor Who can do literally whatever it wants to, and the fact that this script can take this fantastic idea of what if you had someone following you at this distance that you could never approach, you never know who you are, you always feel like someone's there, and then plays into the character of Ruby and this deep-seated fear she must have of being abandoned. And I think this was the episode that really showed you who Ruby was and the importance. And it's there in Space Babies, the fact that the Ruby, the Doctor, and the babies all had this fear of abandonment. And then 73 yards takes that further and sort of... I mean, there's so much you could say here, because there's so many different interpretations of this episode, and the fact that the woman stands for that fear of abandonment, and the fact that the script takes you on this journey of what if everyone she's ever loved or known left her, so she's left entirely on her own, and then tries to think that she can somehow solve it with the Roger Ap Gwilliam little storyline, and then it turning out that that's actually not going to do anything, and so she ends up living her life until she dies. I mean, I genuinely don't know. I mean, I can read. I've actually got my notes.
Yeah.
Millie Gibson's phenomenal, absolutely brilliant.
Oh, totally.
This was the first thing she filmed because Ncuti Gatwa was still filming Sex Education.
Yeah.
So her first day on set, she was 18 years old, and they said, "Right, you're now the lead of this television show. Go act." It goes in unexpected directions. I've seen criticisms of the episode should have stayed in Wales. It should have stayed in the pub. And I'm going, no.
I disagree.
I like the directions it goes in. Ruby's story stays at the heart. When the time skip, again, we know that the whole thing's going to get reset because the Doctor's going to appear again. He can't be missing for the rest of the series. But the fact that oh my God, this version of Ruby had to live an entire life by herself is chilling. And I just think vibes-wise, themes-wise, amazing. The direction. Dylan Holmes-Williams, who directed this and Dot and Bubble. Oh my gosh.
I want to talk about him actually, because actually I'll let you finish and I'll talk about him, because he directed a show I watched recently. So
just that scene in the pub, stunning. I mean, I've got nothing more than praise. I mean, yeah, maybe I would have liked to explore more of Roger Ap Gwilliam. We do get more in Empire of Death, even though I think it's quite poorly used in Empire of Death.
I didn't.
I did think it was.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know why it was there.
Yeah,
If it's not going to give us more answers about what, it was just to say that line again to establish. Oh, remember the really good episode.
Yeah.
That's how it felt to me. Like he knew that was going to be a big episode, so he wanted to mention it again.
But I think maybe season 2 will have more to say on Roger Ap Gwilliam. I don't know. It's a theory that I think I might have. I've seen an interesting theory online. I won't repeat it because if you say these things out loud, they won't become true.
Yeah.
So I would like to. I think great character, underexplored. But I think if the episode had spent any more time exploring Albion and Roger Ap Gwilliam, it would have become Years and Years by Rusty Davis, which is a show that already exists. If you want to see the story of Roger Ap Gwilliam, go watch Years and Years.
Emma Thompson's character, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Vivian Rook. So that's it's not what the story is about, and it's quite a strong moment where you think, oh my God, Ruby's found a way out of this situation. No, she's got to live the rest of her life. She's got to age, and that scene of the elderly Ruby in her deathbed and saying, oh, I used to be able to make it snow. Wow.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff. 10 out of 10. Perfect episode. Yeah, nothing gets explained, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, and that's what makes it so brilliant, in the fact that anyone can have any interpretation, any opinion.
Yeah, because I've heard people say it's a dream, it's an alternative reality. It doesn't. It's furries.
I've got my take on it.
Yeah, but Mad Jack has got something to do with it all.
The fact that then Empire of Death kind of implies that the TARDIS's perception filter has something to do with it, but even then, that's just another tool to make your own interpretation. I actually think explains why 73 yards as a number works.
Yeah.
But I think that just actually enriched it. I think the rest of how that episode used Roger Ap Gwilliam was weak, but on its own, 73 yards.
Yeah. I feel like it doesn't need an explanation, and that talks about how strong the episode actually is, because it's just a ride you're on. In a way, you're just there for the ride, and the ride is worth it, even if. So, because I feel I've read a lot of negative stuff about this because of that ending, because you don't quite know. But that's sort of the point as well. It was just meant to be. Oh, this is something else Doctor Who could do. That's the way it was. And it's just a really well-made bit of telly that was a character exploration.
Exactly.
You know, explored a character. That was sort of more the point of the episode. And
the worst criticism I see in this episode was people saying it was pointless because Ruby remembers nothing, so she doesn't. There's no character growth. I'm like, well, that's not the point. The point is for the audience. You get such an insight into this young girl's psyche and her fears and what she would do in this scenario. And people are there going, Ruby got no development throughout the series. Sorry, did you watch 73 Yards? Did you watch Millie Gibson act her heart out? No, you clearly had your eyes closed. Sorry.
No, I get that, and I get people say, oh, it's pointless, but you could also say that about almost every bit of television in a way. Because we watch it, we see a story go on, you know. So you're saying it is for the audience. There is that development. You could say half films and that, because when you're not watching a serial, you're just watching a one contained story, and there's loads like that. So that's a silly argument to say there's no point to 73 yards, because the point is what you go through when you watch it, and what you think about while watching it. And I think it's all about that. It's the only episode I watched twice, because I had to watch it a second time to really see how I felt about it. Because the first time I was just thinking all the way through it, and it never really settled with me until I watched it a second time. And then when I watched it a second time, I was like, yeah, this is a good episode. It's as good as I thought it was, So Matt?
A lot to say on this. I think it's a masterpiece. Genuinely, I think it's probably the only episode this series I would give a 5 out of 5 to, no question. I think it is a very unique blend of almost like this folk horror with this underlying political threat. I think it is, as you say, it's very interpretive as to how you see this story. For me, I kind of see it as like, what if your future self was there kind of giving you a warning? It's almost like an impending... Mad Jack, you can almost... relate to anything as, because even though he's human, he's probably one of the most terrifying villains they've had in this series. Because when you're introduced to him, I mean, there's talks of him wanting to basically create a nuclear explosion, and that was like, oh my god, like the threat feels very formidable. I think it's also, Mad Jack is almost basically like the devil. If the devil was a human being in some regards, I think political world. Political world.
Yeah.
I think it could have been a 90-minute feature film even. I think it if it was, it would have cracked my top 10 of the year. Millie Gibson's performance is stunning. I think how much breadth of time is captured in such a restrained amount of time. You can't believe they've gone into 45 minutes. I love even just the nuances, like when the pub are like the discussion of Apple Pay.
Which you'll notice they don't say that. I thought it's so funny. They don't say the word Apple Pay, obviously, for copyright reasons. Just kind of pay with my phone. And you're sat there going, no one says pay with your phone.
Yeah.
But no.
And Ruby's quirkiness and ingenuity as a character to almost just pursue this warning that was sort of who Mad Jack really is.
Even though it turns into absolutely nothing. I think is brilliant.
It's its own story.
Yeah,
I think it's
gorgeous.
And not many people have spoken about Anwar Barnard, who played Mad Jack. Well, I thought it was excellent. Like considering what he had to do, that you've got to convey that sense of evilness, and he came in about midway through the episode, and I thought he was excellent.
And it's not a sense of evilness; it's saying that genuinely people could vote for him because he's not like a mustache-wearing villain. There's something about him you go, oh yeah, charming. I could imagine. Yeah, exactly, charm. He's got charm, but you also like his eyes are just like, oh no, this guy could end the world at the same time, and he played it really well. I also want to talk about like all the characters in that pub, because you're like, this could be a show on its own. These characters in this pub, and what they're in it for 10 minutes.
Give me that spin-off,
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously Russell T's Welsh himself, so he loves all that. So, like, that kind of... I could imagine him making a show about a bunch of people living in a Welsh pub.
Yeah.
And he'd probably really enjoy it.
I think the pub is a great setting, full stop. And I've always wanted there to be an episode of Doctor Who in the pub. Not that makes me sound like I love a pint, which I do. But I think old English and Welsh country pubs, beautiful and so characterful settings. And I've seen lots of films that use the setting of like a warm evening that then turns a bit sinister. So I'm really glad Doctor Who used that setting in this episode, and actually I'd go back there again. Give me an episode every single season set in a pub.
Give me an episode like 73 yards every season, because I think it was like, as you said, Doctor Who could never be the same again. I think it was probably like one of the... So I think sometimes like with TV... With TV, I'll say this point first. I find there's showstopper episodes, like episodes that basically kind of put the rest of the episodes out of contention. This was just flat out floored me. I mean, I remember the day I saw it. It was the day after I watched Furiosa, and I had no expectations, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" I almost came out of it just going, "Wow!" I mean, I was kind of just left speechless, which is I'd say of all of the Ncuti's episodes and the 60s specials, I think it's the best one. If we were ranking it out of all 12 even, I think it's the best one personally. Yeah. It's that good.
Yeah.
I think the writing is exemplary. I think it's just... Millie Gibson, I can't believe it. The performance is just amazing. I mean...
What a talent.
And the other point I wanted to mention was that earlier, Dylan Holmes Williams, the director, was actually directed a few episodes of the show I watched recently, Servant, for Apple TV.
Oh, okay.
And he directed probably 3 of the best episodes. I mean, one was set mainly entirely in a car, so you can see kind of he works really well in confined spaces. There's another like Halloween parade that turned into a bit of a massacre, which I thought was genius. Servant, I definitely recommend you watch Servant now if you want to see more of Dylan Holmes Williams' work. He directed 4 episodes. It's from M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes.
I've heard of it.
And each... Oh, yeah, and he did one in Series 3 where there was absolute chaos in the kitchen. So it's really good to see his journey, I think. Dylan Holmes Williams. Because I feel like a lot of the times we can maybe forget about the people who are behind the camera on Doctor Who. But they've gone through... They're really well accomplished directors. They're not.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the writers, but they don't talk about directors and that. And,
well, that's a symptom of television as well.
Yeah.
We don't talk about television directors are a dying breed.
Yeah.
He's only 31, It's very young for a director of the show, and I hope he comes back. Obviously,
100%.
Series 2 is already in the can, and he didn't direct any of them, sadly. But Series 3 is waiting to be commissioned, Disney. So yeah, I hope the really positive response to his episodes brings him back into the fold.
Because his 2 episodes were like, as conversation pieces, they were fabulous.
Yeah.
I thought like there was so much to say in each of them, and
I feel like we won't get an episode like it again in that sense. You
But
get what I mean?
I kind of hope that it means that no series just goes, we're just going to have generic episodes every single episode. Because my whole thing is, I was very, very pro the reset of the season numbering. This was season 1, not series 14, because I really think television shows can stagnate.
Yeah.
If you let them run for too long, people kind of get into a rhythm, kind of forget what makes them special and unique, and just says, "Oh, let's keep churning out the same old thing." And when you actively make a point and say, "Okay, no, let's sort of start this again," or let's think about how we can refresh it, giving it a new starting point and really pushing it into new places is the way that this show has survived for over 60 years. And so that's part of the reason why I love 73 Yards, and I want next season people to play with genre, people to play with what the show can be, and it's not just monster of the week, let's run down some corridors, and let's just stick to the formula. That should be there, and it should be done really well, like Rogue was done, but let's have more of the experimental. I think I'm going into the summing up of the series.
Yeah, which we can definitely do now.
Good,
because
good segue.
Yeah.
Segue.
Yeah.
Can you tell I've got my own podcast?
Yeah, he's used to it, huh? How many episodes you done today on Davis?
I think like 19 now or something.
Bloody hell, you've done more than me.
We churn them out. Maybe I've made that might be 15.
He's done more than me. He's after my job.
I've got a very hard-working co-host.
That's good.
If it were up to me, we wouldn't have started yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting series, I think, especially for someone who's been out of the Doctor Who loop for so long. I think playful is probably the best word I'd use to describe it. I think there's something in this series for everyone, audiences of all ages. I mean, Space Babies is made for a younger audience, probably just not made for me.
Yeah, that is a big thing. Like when you think, was this episode made for me?
No.
And and then when that series started, I was like, is this series going to be made for me? And yeah, it was. It was eventually. By the time we got to Boom, like I said, I was very much on board. And ever since then, I was enjoying pretty much everything, apart from a few minor issues. And then it sort of dropped by the end.
But yeah, from Boom onwards, I was like 100% sold on the partnership as well. I think their performances across the whole series have been stunning. Yeah. Like, I genuinely can't wait to see more of them again. I mean, I hope they're back together. I mean, there's the...
Well, we have a new companion next
who's
season.
in Boom.
Varada Sethu, who played Monday Flynn in Boom. She won't be returning as Monday Flynn. We'll find out who...
That's the Doctor Who tradition as well, bringing in an actor and then giving her a different role.
So we'll find out who she is next season. We'll probably find out before then. They'll probably announce it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we will see if Disney commission the show for a 3rd and 4th season, which I think... Probably will.
I think third's definitely on the cards.
Oh yeah. As far as I know, this series has gone down quite well. I know there was a few people saying, "Oh, the ratings are awful." I remember reading that and going, "Well,"
but people are watching it very, very differently.
Yeah, people are watching on iPlayer.
Yeah,
on iPlayer, and people are not watching it as it releases. I've spoken to so many people who are just starting to watch it now because people watch box sets.
Yeah.
People aren't watching television as soon as it comes out, especially if it's not hot on their radar, or if they're not a loser like me who watches it the second an episode drops. So I'm not worried about ratings. The critical success and the rating, the critics writing reviews have been scoring everything very, very highly, and I believe the American numbers are very high, as are the international interest, which is obviously what Disney cares. Disney do not care who's watching on BBC. They care about who's streaming on Disney+.
Yeah.
And I really think this is the era that's going to be focused on people watching it around the globe. So yeah, and even if, and I will say, because I've seen some pessimism, I just want to have my moment to say, even if Disney go, actually, we don't want to pay for another season, there will be a third series and there will be a fourth series. It will just be back on a BBC budget.
Yeah.
So we won't have Jonathan Groff, and we won't have Jinx Monsoon, and we won't have Sutek being leashed through a VFX, a CGI time vortex. But we will have another series. We will hopefully, I hope Ncuti Gatwa comes back for more. I hope he does loads more for years to come, and I think he will. But yeah, it'll just be on a smaller budget again, which I can deal with.
Yeah.
So-
It's definitely coming back. Doctor Who doesn't end.
Yeah, no, especially the BBC will not let it go.
No, not again anyway.
No.
Almost did at one point, but no, not again. And I think you're right about the reset. It was the right move.
Yep.
I feel like, because you said Series 14, but that it all got really muddled. People can't really keep, when you watch it back now, it's really hard to keep track. There was a...
And no one...
Waving again.
Yeah.
God, these lights are temporal in the studio.
No one...
Are these like...
Gone for good. No,
okay.
good.
No one in the general public is going to pick up a show and go, oh, let me just start on Series 14, because then I know people who have tried to convince to watch the show and they say, oh, I need to start from season 1. I go, no. I even know one person that was like, but it's been on for 60 years. I don't want to start watching something from the 60s. I'm like, no, just...
Yeah.
So no, fantastic idea.
Yeah, I always recommend starting at Raws most of the time, just because that's such a good run of television that if you're missing out if you don't watch it.
Yeah.
But maybe then go to, I don't know, it middles, doesn't it? It's a hard thing to keep watching. I find people stop, well, the people I've recommended to stop around halfway through Matt Smith's, which is interesting.
Criminal.
I know, Criminal.
Which is where I kind of stopped originally.
Is that where you stopped, Matt? So what made you stop that?
I don't know. I just stopped watching it. I don't know. It was never a big show in the household. It was when Tennant was on.
Yeah.
I don't ever really know how I got into Doctor Who, to be honest.
Every single child in the 2000s watched some Doctor Who. Everyone our age has seen Doctor Who in the UK. And even if they didn't watch Doctor Who, they probably watched the Sarah Jane Adventures. The amount of people who don't realise that was a Doctor Who spin-off.
Oh, that's a masterpiece, Sarah Jane. Missed that a lot.
Yeah. So
Do you think there will be spin-offs from this?
So there was a rumoured spin-off that RTD confirmed had 8 titles. I mean, if you discount Tales of the TARDIS, which is technically a spin-off, and which is available to stream on iPlayer now, but it seemingly should have been announced months ago, and I think it's been delayed because RTD said originally there wasn't the money for there to do another children's spin-off, so no CBBC, Sarah Jane Adventures type thing. But yes, I think they've just taken on such a high burden with the actual show, the main show. It's such a high effort thing to make such a high budget, beautiful labour of love, even though there's now only 9 episodes a year, that I think they're kind of struggling to try and make something else as well. So, but that's fine, because I'd rather the stuff is of higher quality than they try and rush to get loads of stuff out. But I hope, apparently there are scripts that have been written for this other thing.
Yeah, I would argue though, but it was when Torchwood and Sarah Jane were going on, and Doctor Who, they were all good in their own way.
Yes.
They were all very like...
But then you have to remember, Russell T Davies' mental health was not very good, because he made it his mission to watch every single thing that they broadcast and gave his personal stamp of approval to. So I don't think that man slept for about 4 years. And if you're ever interested, there's a fantastic book, The Writer's Tale by Russell T Davies and Benjamin Cook, where for just over 12 months, it's the exchange of emails between Russell T Davies and the journalist Benjamin Cook, who writes for Doctor Who magazine, about Russell T Davies' process for writing the 4th series of Doctor Who. And oh my gosh, that man smokes a lot of cigarettes.
Oh, really?
And has a lot of imposter syndrome and procrastinates like hell. And you get a real sense of he could not have written any more beyond that point without killing himself, because he was working so hard. And Stephen Moffat was doing the same when he was writing Doctor Who and Sherlock at the same time. He was asked in an interview, how did you do it? And he said, I was paid a lot of money. That's how I did it. So the fact that now... it definitely seems like it's a much more positive atmosphere. The fact that there's 3 times as many executive producers as there used to be means there's people are able to share the workload. And I think with fewer episodes and next season there should be more guest writers. There's less of a script writing burden on RTD, which means hopefully it's a more positive working environment that reflects where we are in the 2020s as we are versus the 2000s. So that's my very long-winded answer to will there be spin-offs.
Yeah. No, that was really good. Yeah. What do you think the best spin-off was?
I've only seen Sarah Jane.
Have you only seen Sarah Jane?
Torchwood is...
I think you'd really enjoy Torchwood, Matt. It seems very much your vibe.
I tell you what, watch the 3rd season of Torchwood. It's a 5-episode miniseries that takes place over...
Children of Earth?
Children of Earth.
Yeah.
Torchwood Children of Earth is some of the darkest television I've ever watched.
I really
it's a good concept, and there was
I really liked
bits.
Torchwood, like, you know, Gwen and all that was great.
Gwen's a great character.
Yeah, I really liked it. It felt like it was its own thing, and I really enjoyed Torchwood. I did not enjoy Class.
I think Justice for Class.
Really?
I would have wanted to see a second season. I like Patrick Ness as a writer.
I just feel like it struggled to know what it was.
Maybe.
Yeah, like I didn't.
It's been a while since I've watched it.
Like, was it for teenagers? Was it for adults?
It was for young adults.
It's for young adults.
So it was because that's Patrick Ness is a YA writer.
Yeah.
But tonally, I think it's quite different to some of the other stuff that he wrote.
Yeah, I feel like the tone was just off in a lot of places. It didn't have a strong identity as a Torchwood or a Sarah Jane. It wasn't one or the other. It was kind of trying to be a bit of both, and they crashed. Yeah. Quite hard. Anyway, I won't go into that. Sorry, Matt. I could talk about this for too long.
Let's keep going. We'll wrap up. Well, I will say thank you, Zach and Adam, again for this Doctor Who special. We'll have to do it again next series.
Thank you very much for having me.
That'll be next year.
Thank you.
I cut you off.
No, so thank you very much for having us.
Yeah,
that's all good. Yeah,
really good.
I will see you all in the next episode.
Brilliant.
Whenever that'll be.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
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 Stream Davis on Davis. My podcast.
Yeah. Davis or Matt the Critic Show, you decide.
You can do both.
You can do both.
I support both.